Good morning. In this video, you will learn how to use a for loop, create a integer array, and then use this for loop that you created to traverse this integer array. So let's get started. As you can see, I've already created this for loop class right here. And I've created the public static void main method for it right here. And inside of it, I've already created two new local variables named nums and my numbers. Now these are something new that you haven't seen before, so but the syntax is actually very familiar. So I'll go through this. Okay. So this is the way that you would create a new integer array. You start off with the type integer right here, and then the open and close square brackets. Okay, this indicates to the Java IDE in the compiler that you want an array that is composed of integers inside of it. And remember that an array is just a list of boxes. That's all it is. It's a list of boxes that have a name attached to it, so that you can index your way through each of the boxes inside of this array. Okay, so now we assign this newly declared array with a new instance. Okay, so new, and then integer, and then we declare that we want 100 boxes right off the bat. So this is a new integer array with 100 array elements in it, and we assign the name nums to this array. Now there's another way to create an array and then right away initialize the contents of the array, and that's what line 7 is, this line right here. Okay, so again, we declare a type integer, an array, the open and close square brackets, and then we call it my numbers right here. The next thing is you see a curly brace, open and close, and within it there are 7 numbers from 0 to 6, a list of comma delimited numbers. So this way we're telling it that we want, telling the JVM and the compiler and the IDE that we want a new my numbers integer array and initialize it with these integers right here inside our brackets. So we don't have to tell it that we want a 7 element integer array, because the computer can count. It's going to create a new 7 element integer array and then put these numbers in it. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is this for loop right here from lines 9 through 19. Now the for loop always have 3 elements in it. So if you can see the syntax right here, starts off with a for, a open and close set of parentheses, and then inside you'll see 3 semicolon delimited elements. Okay, and the first element right here is to initialize a new integer index. Okay, so integer index, and we initialize it with the value 0. Okay, and we're gonna actually use this number to index our way through an array. Okay, and I'll explain what that means in a bit here. Okay, so the first element inside of the for loop is to initialize the indexing element. The next thing is a test to see if we're going to keep going through this for loop and when do we stop. Okay, so we're going to keep going through this for loop, keep cycling through and do things as long as index is less than the length of the my numbers array. Okay, so here we already said that the length of the my numbers array, the computer knows that it's 7 because there are 7 elements. So as long as the index is less than 7, we're going to keep looping through, cycling through this for loop. Okay, And the last thing is every single cycle that we run through this for loop, we're going to update. After we run through one cycle, we're going to update this index by incrementing it by 1. So now we're going to talk about going through this array, okay? So the first time when we start this array, the index is already initialized to 0. And then we're going to test is 0 less than 7, which is the length of this my numbers array. Yes, it is. 0 is less than 7. So we're going to go through the inside of this for loop, which is right here. Okay? Just happens that there's only one line, so we're going to print out the 0th, because we initialize index 0. We're going to print out the 0th element of the my numbers array. Okay? So we're going to print out this thing, which happens to be the number 0. Okay? Now the next thing we're going to do is we've already gone through every single statement inside of the for loop. So now there's only one statement. So if there are more, we're going to go through more. But because there's only one element, it's going to print out this my numbers, the 0th element, and that's it. After that, we're going to increment by 1. And then we're going to test again. Okay, now the index is 1. Is it still less than the length of the my numbers array? 1 is less than 7. So yes, it's true. This test evaluates to the true Boolean condition. And now we're going to go through the inside of the for loop again. So this time we're going to print out the index, which is now incremented to 1. So now we're going to print out the number 1 element in the my numbers array, which happens to be the number 1. Alright, so now after that, we're going to come back and increment again. We're going to test. So every time we, at the end of the loop, we increment, then we test. If this test evaluates to be true, then we continue through the inside of the array. So increment, test, execute the for loop again, increment, test, execute the for loop again until this test evaluates to false. At that point, then we exit the loop. We'll no longer go through any of this anymore. We continue on from line 14 right after the loop. Okay, so what happens is because we increment and then test, when it's false, then we exit. That the index at the end of it is going to be it's going to be equal to the length of the my numbers array, right? Because when it equals to the length, yeah. So when this increments to 7, 7 is 7 less than 7? No, it's not. Then now we're gonna exit the loop. So let's actually compile this and then run this and see what happens. Okay, so the execution is completed, and now we have the output. So notice that the output here has the inside standard out, printed out the 0th element all the way to the last element right here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's great. It printed all those out. So let's see what happens if we change some of these elements. Okay, so we're gonna do 200, 7, 12, 8, 23, 9, 12, 340, 327, maybe, and then 255, 60, 266, and then 348, 349. Okay, all right. So let's run this again now, and we'll see it print out these numbers instead at the end of the run right here. And notice that it's going to be this is still a 7th element array, so it's going to be, yep, there it is. So 823, 200, 713, 912, 327, 266, and 349. So now I'm going to change, add a couple of more elements over here. Okay, so now this is a 9th element array. So we're going to run this again, and the compiler only looks at the length of this array. So this automatically would know what the my numbers array, what the length of the my numbers array is. You'll get this off of here, and look at that. Great, and this is that was the creating an integer array and then using a for loop to index through each of the element of the array.